Kris here, Green Sabre, Doom Telly Time, episode 78. And I'm going to go back to my decade of metal. Yeah, but before we start that, couple of things. Firstly, band updates. GODTHRYMM, we're going to get a rehearsal in the next few weeks, I believe, to start commencing actually fleshing out new material. I cannot wait. It's going to be fantastic. So, yeah, very much looking forward to that. Green Sabre, been rehearsing, was there this weekend. Hamish will be joining us for a rehearsal soon as well. Cannot wait for that. I'm going to be nipping around at Hamish's just to go through a few bits and pieces as well. It's going to be fantastic. As a reminder, Green Sabre, Saturday, the 7th of December, Night Train, Bradford. We're supporting... I kind of never whatever the name of the band is beginning with a P. I'm very poor from me, very sorry. Horse Called War opening, then the P band, then us, then Gods of Hellfire. Hamish has very kindly offered to join us for the night as a second guitarist, so cannot wait for that. It's going to be a once in a lifetime experience. Get yourself there. It was free. It's £5 on the door now because as any of you that do this kind of shit these days, honestly, the state of trying to be in bands, just costs escalate, and we've had to just add a door fee basically to it in order to make it worth anyone's while. There's a few, people coming from a bit further afield for this and stuff band wise. So yeah, £5 on the door though, but for 4 top quality bands, you can't argue. But yeah, £5 Saturday, 7th of December, Night Train, Bradford. Get there. CROWSBLOOD rehearsing a new song in the bank pretty much. We're just sort of fleshing it out and getting bits and pieces, timings of should we do 4 bars, should we do 8 bars, that kind of fucking thing with various riffs. So get in there, can't wait. So those are the band updates. Another update I want to get to before I crack on with my video fully is the competition winner. Congratulations, Liam Halsegoat, Death Doom Metalhead, a worthy winner of my 200 subs competition. So hats off, Liam. I'd done that whole video saying there was 12 people entered, but there wasn't. There was 13. So this is where I want to insert image. Mention a grave injustice that took place last week at my competition draw. And the injustice was done to the fantastic Roger Kjorvik, our Norwegian friend in the VC. Roger did do a video for this. I somehow missed it. I mean, I'd been through the morning before I did it. I thought, all right, let's make sure that I've not forgotten anyone. Well, guess what? I did forget someone. And I forgot poor Roger. Let's get his name right. Jesus, it's the least I can do. A terrible injustice. Roger has every right to feel betrayed, cheated, that people he considered friends would turn on him like this. I can only apologise, Roger, and I will do my best for the rest of my years, my human existence, to make it up to you, Roger. I promise to never buy coloured or splatter vinyls again, black only. I promise to visit Norway and enjoy its many cultural and tourist hotspots, and other things. All I can say is, I'm so sorry, Roger. I missed your video. So apologies for the injustice, but I felt it needed mentioning. Right, let's draw a line under that sorry episode. So let's get back to further sorry episodes, namely this one, episode 78 of Doom Telly. And I'm going back to my decade of metal. I'm not going to bother explaining it again. It's on all the others, starting in 1987. So the reasons that I'm doing it. Anyway, suffice to say, it's something that I picked up from Metal Mickey. So I'm continuing onwards with them. And we have reached the year that is 1993. Another good year for metal. But I think it's worth saying that it feels like the high water point had been reached at this point in extreme metal circles. And it felt that just the drop-off was beginning. The wave was receding, shall we say. it just felt that the drop-off was beginning to rear its head around 1993. As you will see shortly, there were plenty of top quality releases still. But as I mentioned when I did the videos for 89, 90, 91, even 92, the last one, the level of quality was incredible. And there are a lot of quality that's been missed off my top 6 here. However, like I've just alluded to, it felt like we kind of hit the skids on and certain elements of extreme metal had sort of gone where they could. But anyway, let's crack on with it. So without further ado, 1993, and what a year it was still. So my number 6, because this is the thing, top 6 from that year, top 6 only. I do mention some honourable mentions, and there is a glaring omission from each year that I mentioned. So let's get into the top 6. And firstly, my number 6 is this. I imagine this will upset a few out there, because this album did very much back then, and still does now, polarise opinion on whether this is a glaring sack of shit or a work of absolute genius. I'm in the work of absolute genius camp. Now, if you don't know anything about this, it is, of course, Florida progressive death metal giants Cynic and their debut album Focus. Now, for those of you that don't know Cynic, the two that you will know are Paul Masvidal there, hanging around in the water, and drummer Sean Reinert there. Both of which were on Death's Human album and were a bit of a live mainstay for Death around that time as such. Anyway, this was their actual project. I think they were more Miami-based compared to the rest of them that were sort of Tampa, Florida-based. But anyway, that's a minor fucking detail that no one's really interested in. But yeah, when this debut hit, I was absolutely mesmerised by it. Now, it is a difficult sell in certain things. It is absolute prototype technical death metal at its very highest standard. There is a lot of what I would consider jazz fusion elements in this. So hence why it's not for everyone. But there was also a weird kind of that stuck with Cynic throughout their career as well. A weird kind of sort of robotic, clean voice that was prominent in a lot of the songs. And I think it's that really irked a lot of people. Not me though. I felt I could quite quickly get over it. There was a sort of space age futuristic, very much proggy nature to what that brought. And as I've explained on previous videos, my dad was very much into proggy, jazz fusion-y, weird fucking 70s stuff. So that's where I get that from. And so I could immediately tap into what they did here. I was very fortunate to see them on this tour in Bradford, at the Rios in Bradford, and they played this album in its entirety, as well as the Meeting of the Spirits by the Mahavishnu Orchestra. They did a cover of that live, which I felt privileged to probably be one of the few people in there that knew that song, because, yeah, I'd sort of grown up with it, as I say. But, yeah, absolutely magnificent record, personally. Like I say, it polarises opinion. This is a reissue, because the original goes for daft money, and it's a reissue on somewhat fetching orange vinyl. Sorry, Roger. Yeah, I love this record. And everything about it. All killer, no filler. There's some gigantic slabs of death metal riffery in amongst it all. But you need to sort of take it as that whole package. And if you're into experimental, into proggy, into death metal, this kind of ticks all the boxes. I mean, some of the riff build-up in what's the instrumental track on side B, Textures, the penultimate track. The riff build-up in that, it's such a heavy kind of technical bit of riffage, but there's so many classics on here. Veil of Maya, Celestial Voyage, The Eagle Nature, Sentiment, I Am But a Wave to Uroboric Forms, another classic bit of death metal riffery at the end of that. Textures, and How Could I Have Finished? Fantastic album, and a worthy number 6. And I will still be saying that when I show you the albums that didn't quite make this top 6. Coming in at number 5, and this sort of flipped and flopped. It was always in my top 6, but it was a bit higher up, and then I've had a factory reset on this. So anyway, my number 5 for 93 is Morbid Angel's third full-length album, Covenant. I wasn't enormously sold on this when it came out. Obviously, Altars of Madness, absolutely loved, and it's still my favourite record of Morbid Angels. But Blessed Are the Sick, I was all about that. Fantastic. And this just felt... I don't know why, because it's not like they reinvented the wheel at any point. It was just more Morbid Angel goodness. But I couldn't really get into it at first. I really don't know why. I mean, the opening track, Rapture, mesmerisingly brilliant, classic bit of Morbid Angel. Pain Divine's great, World of Shit, another cracking tune. Lion's Den, Vengeance Is Mine. I would say that the B-side maybe tails off a smidge, but it ends on a killer in God of Emptiness. So, you know, I think it's a consistently decent Morbid Angel record, and it's one that I do tend to go back to quite a lot now. I mean, all the first 4, 5, 6, I would argue, fantastic records in their own right, but this is still the classic Morbid Angel lineup, if you will, firing on all cylinders. Although, has Rick Brunel gone at this point? Yes, Rick Brunel had gone. It's just Trey doing all the guitars on this. Yeah, a worthy number 5. Like I say, I did have it higher up, and then I've reassessed and realised, oh, do you know what, that's too high up. But still, top 6 nonetheless, which some of you will be gasping later on when you see what I've left off to make this top 6. But I think this is a consistently great Morbid Angel record. And I would argue consistently better than Blessed Are the Sick. Blessed, for me, is a bit of a mess of a record. Blessed's the one, of course, that I forgot, fucking left off 91. It was never making me top 6, but it was going to be on worthy mentions. And I forgot to fucking mention it. But I would say that about Blessed. It nosedives as a record. I think the A-side's fantastic and the B-side starts equally well. And then it sort of loses its way for me. You end up getting a lot of demo tracks shoehorned onto it for reasons unknown. And it's like they only had an EP's worth of stuff in reality. And then just kind of, it was a bit of a mess and they finished it, right, that's album 2. Whereas this is consistently better, I would say. The better songs are maybe better off Blessed, but the other thing I would say this had going for it is the production is miles better. Blessed's a very odd production, unless you like the sound of kick drum, which appear to be the dominant force on Blessed Are the Sick. Don't get me wrong, Blessed's a great album, but I think this has more components that work fleshed out as a whole. So hence why Morbid Angel's Covenant is my number 5 for 1993. Moving on, and my number 4, might be a lot of people's number 1, but it's my number 4, is Carcass's classic 4th record, Heartwork. And this is where Carcass really did move a time zone away from where they had started as a band. Eureka Putrefaction, the debut, is very much a beast in its own right as such. Like, it's the only outright grindcore album I would say that they did. Symphonies to Sickness, still my favourite Carcass record, is that bridge between grindcore and straight up fast-paced death metal. I would say Necroticism, the 3rd album, Descanting the Insalubrious, or however you fucking pronounce it, is more straight up death metal with elements of melodic death metal in there. I would say this is where Carcass went full melodic death metal with elements of death and roll, or whatever the fucking phrases that are in there. So, yeah, and my number 4. There aren't really enough superlatives for this record. It is breathtakingly heavy. The production is just skull-crushingly hard, and it's great. It's crisp, it's clean, and I suppose that's where the death and roll thing comes into it, because there's more of a rock album production to it. It's so full and crisp, but you've got the classic Jeff Walker vocal, of course, that's never changed with Carcass over the top of it. And a worthy number 4. I didn't show you the Morbid Angel record, but it's only black vinyl anyway, and who gives a fuck about black vinyl here, I'll get. This Carcass reissue is the purple reissue. This were limited. I want to say it's limited to about 200 or 300, something like that. It cost me, you know, the usual fucking thing. Oh, because it's limited, we're going to stick an extra 2 or 3 quid on top of it or whatever. Blah, blah. So anyway, I saved up my pocket money and bought this. And then about a month later, Earache decided, oh, we're going to do like a full double album version of it as well and stuff. The grabbing bastards. But anyway, I'm very happy with my limited edition purple reissue of Heartwork. But enough about that. We're already at 15 minutes. So my number 4 for 1993. Originally back in 93, this might well have been number 2, potentially. Or 3. But anyway, it slipped down to 4, and you're about to see why. But you're not going to see physical media of it, because I still don't fucking have it, but I have set about remedying that this week. So, my number 3 for 1993 is this. Insert image. Dissections, The Somber Lane. I don't own any physical copy of this, nor ever have, but I've just remedied that. I've found both CDs, the vinyl, even the reissues, of which there's been quite a lot of The Somber Lane, and The Storm of the Light's Bane, but even the reissues are fucking crazy money. I'm looking at a ton plus for both of them, not individually, but for both of them sort of combined as such, although I bet you I'm looking nearly a ton for the Storm of the Light's Bane reissue. But anyway, so I've never owned them vinyl, and I don't own them vinyl, and the prices of them, I don't think I'm going to own them vinyl, sadly, anytime soon, but I have found them both on reissue CD for nice prices on Discogs, so I've picked up the pair. So you'll just have to do with the image for now. Now, in 93, I knew nothing about Dissection. They hadn't hit my radar. I was listening to so much other stuff at the time that although I likely had friends that had picked up on this, I didn't. And I think it was also that kind of slightly more blackened nature to what they do. Although I would say Storm of the Light's Bane is the more blackened of the two records. I would say Somber Lane's more a straight up death metal piece, but anyway. So they weren't on my radar. It wasn't until 95, was it, Storm of the Light's Bane come out, that they came on my radar. Their debut, The Somber Lane, was not on my radar until I'd heard Storm and then delved back and thought, oh, I'm missing a treat there. And I was. But this album has increased to be really important to me, and a worthy number 3 for 1993 because it's an absolute masterpiece. I think The Somber Lane is just my favourite of Dissection's back catalogue. But it's breathtaking. And why it couldn't go much higher when you see what my top 2 are. But why I think number 3 is a worthy place for it. I mean, the title track itself is just mesmerising, but it is all quality. It's fantastic. And they're a massive influence, if you hadn't already noticed, which I think is quite obvious in places, but they're a massive influence on CROWSBLOOD and the sound and vibe that we're going for. So yeah, enough said about that. I won't go into too much detail because I don't have the physical as yet, and so let's just crack on with the ones that I do have physical of. But worthy number 3, Dissection's The Somber Lane. And coming in at number 2, and even though my number 1 was massive to me, this album actually in 93 was bigger to me. It was absolutely game-changing for me, was this album. It is, of course, Typo Negative's second record, Bloody Kisses. Most would argue still their best. It's so close, but I think I would still pick the one that followed this, October Rust. But this is an absolutely breathtaking bit of work. And completely changed the landscape for me in 93. When I first heard it, I think it was the track Black Number 1. And probably the stripped down version that got on Headbangers Ball and was released as a single. That just, it was a light bulb moment for me. It was like, fuck, what's this? Who are these? It was that kind of goth rock vibe that hit really doomy riffs, but it's not all doom. There's some really fast-paced tracks on here as well. Apart from, if you have, I should have dug it out, the Digipack version where they stripped out all the filler tracks in between songs, stripped out all the fast ones, put on another deathly slow one and made it into like a pure funeral doom record. Well, anyway, enough. Most of you will know this album back to front like I do as well, but it was, like I say, it was just eye-opening. It was game-changing, and it's still massively relevant to me now. It's aged brilliantly. It still sounds as good now as it did back then, but I can clearly remember going across to gigs with old Green Sabre guitarist Gaz, and we'd have this in the car. So many gigs that we went over where this basically was The cassette was jammed in the stereo for the whole journey there and back. And yeah, just magnificent record. And a worthy number 2 for 1993. Type O Negative's Bloody Kisses. That's on silver vinyl, but I can't be arsed getting it out of. So you'll just have to believe me. It's the silver vinyl press. I've got a green one back there, and I've got another green one that's in the Type O box set, but I'm not taking that shite out. And finally, for 1993, my number 1, you all know where this is headed, and I will apologise up front to Beardy Red Viking, who is not a fan of this band, but I love them. It is, of course, My Dying Bride's sophomore second album, Turn Loose the Swans. I've done many a video where I spout on about how good this is, so I'll keep this brief, but this is magnificent. And My Dying Bride's finest hour. They've had lots of fine hours, but this is the finest hour. It works so well as a complete piece and was a step away at the time. Now, it wasn't so big a deal for me because I think, as I just mentioned, getting into Type O Negative and Bloody Kisses, where it was a clean vocal. The clean vocal that Aaron does on this, it wasn't that big a deal to me. I can't remember what came first, to be quite honest with you. But anyway, I remember not having a massive problem with it at all, thinking, no, that sounds ace. And there's lots of clean on here. There's still some classic Aaron growls, of course, but there's loads of clean on it, and every track is a masterpiece. I mean, you've got CME 1993 to open it, which is basically just Aaron and a piano and a violin run. It just beautiful, and what a subdued way, a risky way to start an album, but it works absolutely perfectly. Before you go into, is it My Dying Bride's best track ever? If not, it's very close. Your River, just classic Bride. Side B, Songless Bird, The Snow in My Hand. Side C, one track on that one, The Crown of Sympathy. And on side D, you've got the title track, Turn Loose the Swans, which might be my favourite Bride song of all time. And then Black God to finish it off. An absolute masterpiece of a record. And there was only ever going to be, even though it was mighty close, there was only ever going to be one number 1 from 1993 for me. And that is it. A reissue, yes. I'd moved to CD in 1993. I think that's an important note to add, that I had comfortably moved to CD at the back end of 82. I'd stopped buying vinyl at that point. I thought CDs were the future, and I suppose they kind of were. But so hence, everything after back end of 92, I bought on CD. It was rare that I bought anything on vinyl after that, until either now repicking them up, and what was left of the bare bones of what was left of my original vinyl collection that I've kind of replaced, and other stuff that I've picked up since. Really, it was all CD from then, and I've lost a few of those, to be fair. So that was my top 6. Let's go on to honourable mentions. And firstly, this, that in 93 would have been in that top 6 in a heartbeat. Anathema's debut full-length Serenades. They'd already released the Crestfallen EP at this point, but this came, the debut full-length. This is the original with the poster pack, original vinyl press. I absolutely loved that, and I still love it now. I think the production's odd. It's really weak and lacking in punch. I think if it just had a bit more of that punch for the heavy riffs, of which there are a multitude of on here, it may well have still breached that top 6 possibly, but it's that close. But what a record. There's so much melody, and with the band that really made me realise how melodic you could go with doom metal. Absolutely beautiful melodies. And Anathema, that was something consistent throughout their career, whether you liked that change to more indie rock that they went through, or more post-rock, if you will, or whatever you want to call them. I didn't stay with them. They kind of lost me after the Silent Enigma, to be honest with you, but then I picked up back later on, and got into all of them as such. They're a band that, I massively loved back then. There's lots of fairly horrid rumours doing the rounds about sort of certain things which have tarnished a bit of the legacy for me as such, but I'm not going to go into that here. But this is still a straight up ripper from 1993, and a very close entry to my top 6, but not quite. Another one that is very close to my top 6, but not quite, is Cathedral's second full length, The Ethereal Mirror. Absolutely loved this back then, and it was so bludgeoningly heavy. I remember we'd gone on a holiday down to Cornwall, a family holiday. Me and my brother found this record shop that's no longer there in Falmouth, I want to say. It was in Falmouth, I'm sure it was. Like, right up, like where you could get the ships from that go around the little ship tours and stuff. It was up that end, up a hill. And we bought this on CD, The Ethereal Mirror, and the another one that I'm going to mention shortly, so I will save it until I mention it. We mentioned it, and we just listened to them to death on that holiday, so this has got quite good memories of that particular holiday for me. But a jaw-dropping bit of, for a lot of people, their favourite Cathedral record. It's not mine. You all know which one mine is, and I won't mention Forest of Equilibrium again on this video. But I still really, really like this. This is where Lee's vocals and vocal style, I should say, went slightly unhinged. Well, they'd started the unhinged process on the Soul Sacrifice EP, but they went fucking demented in places, quite frankly, in there. And it's still a difficult sell. They'd gone far more groovy, but there's still some sensational riffs and sensational songs on here and some great melodies. But the groove thing is clearly front and centre of the new Cathedral sound. And I just, as you know, preferred In Memoriam, Forest of Equilibrium, and the Soul Sacrifice EP to a degree. I preferred that sound of Cathedral, so this is always going to be second best for me. And for the top 6 that I picked for 93, this was close but no cigar, but an honourable mention to what is still a fantastic record, Cathedral's The Ethereal Mirror. Another fantastic record, Decomposed, Hope Finally Dies. And just a fantastic, classic, straight up bit of death doom. One of the pioneers, and still this record's one of the best at that genre of metal for me as well. But death doom masterpiece, all killer, no filler. I can still listen to this now. It's a cracking record. And yeah, I've mentioned it before, but yes, original press, can you believe? On, is it Candlelight? Yeah, Candlelight Records they're on. But breathtaking bit of work. Never threatening a top 6, but an honourable mention for sure. Another one that I wasn't into at the time, but I've since got into years after. The Melvins with arguably their biggest record that they ever released, Houdini. It was the first one on, was it on A&M? Or Atlantic, sorry. It was the first one on a major label. And there's nothing major label about it, which is probably why they didn't last a very long time on a major label. But some absolute rippers on it. I mean, Hooch to open it. What else have we got? Night Go. Where's the other one that I love? There's Lizzie, Going Blind. Track 5, Honey Bucket. Fucking masterpiece. Classic Melvins, great record. Great record. Not quite in my top 6 though. Another great record. Deaths. 1, 2, 3, 4, fifth album. Individual Thought Patterns. Loved this when it come out. Like I say, 93. This was likely in my top 6. Production's a bit weird on it. Very compressed sound, but the solos by both Chuck and soloist and standing guitarist on this album, Andy LaRocque of King Diamond fame. Fuck me. Just a soloing masterclass on here. Breathtaking. Some great songs on here. Like I say, the production's odd. It's a really compressed vibe. And if you watch my Death, the video's on my video feed, but if you watch my Death ranking, this isn't particularly high up for those reasons as such, like, but Jesus, there's enough quality on here. Great album. Not top 6 though. Another great album. I liked this at the time as well. Entombed's third full length, and the return of Lars Goran Petrov on vocals. Way more death and roll, way more in the style of like Carcass's Heartwork as such, if you will. But some straight up rippers on here. I still love this record. Yeah, it's not classic HM2 death metal, but it's still Entombed being fucking fantastic and an absolute ripper of an album. Loved it then, still love it now. In fact, I probably listen to this one now more than I do Clandestine. Maybe not as much as Left Hand Path, but I still love this record. But yeah, some absolute rippers on here. Wolverine Blues, Entombed. And another one which I imagine most of you would have thought would have made my top 6, but not quite. Paradise Lost's 4th album, Icon, and the last decent record for me. And I will only call this decent. The last great one was Shades of God, the one before it. This one is going into that slightly more mainstream metal vibe that they went for. There's still elements of doom creeping in there, but not enough of them for my liking. Ember's Fire is a great tune, and there are other, like True Belief's another great tune, which is the one that they normally still... Joys of Emptiness likes that one. Is it Widow? Widow's the only one that seems to still make a return, a live setting. But there are some crackers on here, but it's heading towards draconian times that I've mentioned a few times, as you will all well know now. I'm not an enormous fan of, and I still can't really get into it. It just doesn't do a lot for me. It's that kind of goth metal by numbers vibe. I hate and like I say, Gregor is still a guitar idol of mine, and I hate not loving everything that he did, but I just they lost me at Draconian. They were just beginning to lose me here, but I still really like this album, so an honourable mention because I loved it at the time as well. But yeah, cracking record. The other one I'll mention is this, because I've not got the vinyl and I'm not willing to part with the fucking £7 gazillion or whatever the reissue is going for currently. But the CD will do me just fine. Anthrax's The Sound of White Noise. I know Rossi in Green Sabre, it's his favourite Anthrax record. He is all about the John Bush era. I've got mixed emotions on both of it. I think John Bush is the better vocalist, and I really liked this incarnation of Anthrax to a degree. There is a few of the albums that just like Stomp 442, whatever it's called, and a couple of the others that they're just not consistently great, whereas this one is. And you can hear that transition from the album that preceded this, Persistence of Time, into this. And it's that era of Anthrax that's my favourite. I love Persistence of Time as a record, and I love this one too. So great album. This was the other one that I bought at that. In fact, this is still the exact same CD of the one that I bought at that place in Falmouth. Loved it. Great album. Not quite top 6 quality. Other worthy mentions that I've not got physical media of that I will just run through now. The Crowbar self-titled. Yeah, unbelievably. I've never owned physical media of it. A mate did me a cassette, and that did for me for all this time. Love it. But yeah, Crowbar's self-titled 93 album. Burzum with is it Det Sommengang Var. I feel like the Asker EP's 93 as well though, but it all gets a bit confused there. But I'll show the Det Sommengang Var would not have remotely threatened my top 6 back in 93. Didn't really threaten it now, but still classic Burzum, worth a mention. Life of Agony, River Runs Red. I have this on the Digipack CD somewhere, but can't find it. Like I say, there's a lot of my CDs that I'm beginning to wonder if I still have them, quite honestly. But yeah, I did used to have the Digipack of this. Absolutely loved it. Great album. Loved it back then. I don't know whether it's aged brilliantly well, but I still like it. It's still a great album and a worthy mention. Life of Agony, River Runs Red. Immortal, Pure Holocaust. Cracking record. Immortal, I was a bit funny with. They're not my favourite of the Norwegian black metal bands. I find Abbat's voice a little hard to love, if that makes any sense. But decent album, so an honourable mention. Dark Throne, Under a Funeral Moon. It's the one that I don't own on CD. I've got most of the others, but I don't own this one. So, yeah, Under a Funeral Moon. What else? I don't want to miss anything. I think that's it. Right, 35 fucking minutes. Let's wrap this up with The Glaring Omission. And it definitely wouldn't have made me top set. It probably meant more to me back in 93 than it certainly does now. But it still wouldn't have threatened my top 6 because I had issues with it back then. I have issues with it now still. My glaring omission for 93 is, insert image, Sepultura's Chaos AD. I remember at the time when this come out, the big song and dance about it, about how they'd gone. Did they record it at Rock Field or what? That fucking big studio in Wales that they've recorded loads of classic albums. Did they record it there, or what? Say they did, because I remember seeing a little documentary on Ed Banger's Ball or something about the making of Chaos AD and about how it was going to be like the next bludgeoning follow on from 91's seminal Arise. Which it was not. It was a very different animal though, and I think that's worth mentioning. And sort of the reason that I tapped out. It's not new metal because it's a bit early for it, but it's just on the cusp of new metal. And that sound that Max Cavalera kind of pioneered with Chaos AD, and then with Roots that followed it, and the Soulfly stuff. It's a lot more new metal vibe. Lots of open chords, dun, 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 dun. More groove, more open chord, more new metal, really, sort of sound coming into it. And I wasn't hugely sold on it. I preferred Beneath the Remains, Arise. I preferred that era, Schizophrenia. That era, Sepultura, was everything to me. And this felt like a departure to it, from it, which it was. And not wholly in a good way. I just think as well, in recollection, like I've said on previous videos, new metal's aged awfully. And there's no two ways about that. It is aged horrendously. All new metal, really. There are very few shining lights, very few beacons in amongst what was a pretty turgid time for metal. And this is the beginnings of that for me as such. Refuse Resist, that opens the album, is a cracker, and you just think, yeah, I can get into this. It's got like some of that groove in there that was beginning to appear on Arise. And yeah, works absolutely brilliantly. And what's the Territory that follows it? It's half decent as well, but the album, and I thought this back then as well, the album nosedives significantly after that. There isn't great. I mean, you've got like Biotech is Godzilla, which I didn't mind. That's a bit more of an up-tempo track. And I really do like the New Model Army cover of The Hunt, was it called? Did I make a that? Make a note? No, I've just said New Model Army cover. I think it's called The Hunt. Anyway, I liked that because I do quite like a bit of New Model Army here and there. But I don't think it's aged well, which it seems to be a common theme for albums that make my glaring omissions. I just think this was a misfire that Sepultura never really recovered from as such. They went away from bands have to progress and stuff, but I can't help feeling now that the progression into new metal was more for fashion's sake than it was for really any kind of legitimate metal reasons. There's no denying that Chaos AD, if it's going to come under that new metal bracket, is one of the best examples of it. Of that, there's no doubt, because there's a lot of fucking shite out there under that moniker. But that is why Sepultura's Chaos AD is my glaring omission from 1993. Right, that is enough. We've covered a lot of ground. We've covered 93. We've covered band updates. We've covered my grovelling apology to Roger Kjorvik. So let's wrap it up there. Thanks ever so much for subscribing. Thanks for liking. Thanks for watching all my stuff. It's very, very much appreciated. I think I've got 246 subscribers now, so let's get that up to 300. Let's get that up to 3 gazillion. I want to be the next Jake Paul and fight some old has-been 60-year-old boxer with health issues. That's the dream, guys. Let's help me achieve it. So, without further ado, thank you for watching. And until next time, I will see you then. So long, guys and gals.